Okie dokie, we're rolling. Here's a clap. Sync. Yeah. Yes, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to Professional Welder Reacts to. What am I reacting to today?
Some hot, fresh memes.
Some memes and
TikToks. You know, what all of the kids use nowadays.
So I think what's happened is Walker has put together a compilation of welding memes and TikToks for me to react to. LiftArc is just recently on TikTok. I get my TikToks secondhand through Instagram, like an adult, you Zoomers. But I don't know what's in store. Walker, do you care to?
Sure. Fun fact, the welding hashtag on TikTok has 5 billion views.
Wow.
It's
billion with a B.
With a B.
The weld, all right, so is that basically what you searched to put this together? Well, being that LiftArc is now on TikTok, I suppose it only feels right to peruse the TikToks. So I'm going to play Walker's compilation here, and we're gonna, we're just gonna react. Here we go.
Well, some of them are haha, some of them are confusing to me, so maybe you can explain.
Okay.
Some of them are just absurd, and some people are flat out wrong. So
great, a good mix of all types of things.
Yes.
All right, well here we go. I'm just gonna play. How to piss off a welder 101. We did this to him all day. That's brutal, dude. So to weld, you have to ground to the metal piece that you're welding, and then your torch connects the circuit when you pull the trigger on a MIG or the trigger or foot pedal on a TIG welder. Welding is a giant short circuit, and to short a circuit, you have to have a closed loop. And by disconnecting the ground clamp, he opens the loop, stopping the whole process. But the dude with the mask down welding isn't gonna know that that's exactly what happened. So this seems like a let's mess with the new guy kind of thing.
That seems to be a theme on TikTok.
Yeah, I've actually seen quite a bit of these. Like, I'm not gonna jump into what I've seen just in case there's more in here to cover it, but who doesn't love messing with the new guy? I mean, come on. It's certainly not good for the weld consistency. Typically you wanna have as few stops and starts as you can. And if you do have to stop and start a weld, you want to do it in a controlled fashion, not just cutting the welder off, which is essentially what this is doing. So yeah, some of these guys, depending on the application, might have to go back and like clean the weld up before they keep going. This isn't the type of thing done in like a highly professional setting.
Sure.
I would say probably this is an apprenticeship program, or something like that. They're welding on fairly rusty metal. This doesn't look like highly precision work, but it's funny. I've actually never disconnected the ground while welding, so I'm curious. I mean, the machine's gonna stay on, but it's just gonna stop welding. And I wonder if the wire would stick to the weld. Maybe we'll try it later and let you guys know. From Aramos 1997. This looks awful. And it's like sheet metal, so you know he's blowing through everything. Oh, dude. Dude didn't have, he didn't have any, like, in the front in his welding mask. It was just looking, I'm hoping this dude had his eyes closed. Even still, if you have your eyes closed, but nothing between your face and the weld, not only are you gonna get UV burns on your face skin, but you could also still damage your eyes through your eyelids because your eyelids don't do that much to shield the light. That was a terrible idea. And above all else, there was no welding being done. He was welding holes in a piece of sheet metal. Just bad news all the way around.
Anything for content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it has, here's a problem with TikTok though. I'm sure it has like 5 billion views. Maybe we'll just have to do that. We gotta appease the algorithm.
I want to share with you guys one of our trade secrets that we use with aluminum foil. We sort of Plug the new guy in with the experienced guy, and they seem to learn a lot faster. And this doesn't just work with welding; it works with a lot of things. So you guys ought to give it a try, see what you think.
It's so good. There's nothing to say. It's so good. Oh my God, that was funny. That's just a funny visual. Like if that was just a picture, it'd be hilarious.
Imagine being the teacher and pitching that to your student.
Or being the teacher and like walking in and seeing that.
Plug the new guy in with the experienced guy, and they seem to learn a lot faster. And this doesn't just work with welding; it works with a lot of things. So you guys ought to give it a try, see what you think.
Oh, that's funny. When your welder has too much spare time. Oh my God. Just dick jokes and trade jobs go hand in dick. All right, this next one's from the Troubled Tradesman.
There is way too much porosity in this weld. Check this out right here.
Probably galvanized.
As you guys can see off of that first MIG weld, there is not enough gas coverage here, therefore contaminating the weld and not making the weld strong enough. This is not going to hold under any kind of pressure at all. Some of you guys might actually think this is a good weld, but do not be fooled. As you can tell, there is way too much porosity in these welds, there is way too much gas coverage in these welds, and you shouldn't have to chip away rust on a weld. If it's a good weld, it should not be rusting. Trust me, I used to be a welder.
Yeah, that guy was trolling the entire time.
So that guy has caused quite a stir in the TikTok welding.
I'm sure, yeah. So he's presenting his opinion in a way that sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And for a second, you're like, I like almost took him seriously, but there's so many things wrong with what he's saying. And I can only imagine this guy, you said this guy's getting flamed on TikTok. Of course he is, because he's using all the wrong terminology. And there's in fact not really anything wrong with the welds that he's showing. Porosity is like a sponge, is very porous. And porosity in a weld would look kind of like a sponge. There's bubbles in it. And it's usually caused by lack of gas coverage, impurities in the metal, impurities on the surface of the metal. Any sort of contamination can cause porosity, and porosity makes a weld really weak. But porosity just looks like a bunch of tiny bubbles in the weld because the weld metal was liquid at one time. So bubbles can come up through the metal when it's in its liquid state. And then when the metal hardens, it locks those bubbles in, and you see them from the surface. None of these welds he's talking about have any porosity. The only thing happening on this first one that I can see is that it looks galvanized, and you can see that white ring around the weld. That is the zinc from the surface burning, and zinc being burned is actually really toxic. It can make you feel sick. For some reason, drinking milk, it makes you feel better. That's like but anyway, use a respirator if you're welding zinc. He also says this is MIG welding, this is a TIG welder. So
gas coverage here, therefore contaminating the weld and not making the weld strong enough.
He knows he's trolling people too.
Under any kind of pressure at all. Some of you guys might actually think this is a good weld, but do not be fooled. As you can tell, there is way too much porosity.
Yeah, that weld's fine. There's zero porosity.
There is way too much gas coverage in these.
And it's a stick welding, so there's no gas coverage. There's no gas. The shielding happens by burning the flux around the electrode.
Welds, and you shouldn't have to chip away rust.
Yeah, and he's not chipping away rust, he's chipping away the cap left over from, I'm not exactly sure, but in stick welding with no shielding gas, you're usually left with that sort of crusty top that you are 100% supposed to chip off, and it's completely expected. So
on a weld, if it's a good weld, it should not be rusting. Trust me, I used to be a welder.
Well, and then he says what everyone says when they give terrible welding advice, which is something to the tune of, I used to be a welder, or my uncle's a welder, or my buddy's dad is a welder. And I think maybe the verbiage, I used to be a welder, is kind of funny because maybe he lost his job as a welder because he has no idea what he's talking about. I hope that was intentional because that's really funny.
So you actually picked up on the fact that it was intentional more than any other person online.
Mm-hmm.
The more I dug into his videos, the more I understood But people, mostly just that first video of his blew up.
Oh, I'm sure. With the pipe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kind of calling it MIG welding.
Well, because that, even if you're not a welder, you're more likely to pick up on like that was TIG welding versus MIG welding. But there's a lot more subtleties in there, like if you actually do it. I got a little cringy halfway through, but then I was like, oh, he's trolling everyone. And honestly, bravo for trolling the entire internet. It's very well done.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If you had only seen that first one.
Yeah, if I'd only seen the first one with like that galvanized pipe, I would have had some questions, but I think it was seeing all of the work together that made me realize that guy's just an ultra troll. Because he wasn't making an obvious troll. They were real subtle, just like using the wrong term or using a term that's not happening. I love that he probably set the internet on fire with those videos. And if you got all worked up over that guy's videos, you're an idiot. Sorry. Also, don't go to the internet for welding advice, or TikTok for that matter. Like, go to a welding school. Watch Jody on weldingtipsandtricks.com. Watch 6061.com. Watch the fabrication series on YouTube. Watch guys that like are actually in the trades. Or reach out to me. I'm happy to teach you what I know.
There you go.
For a fee? No. All right. Got some stick welding here. Oh yeah, I've seen this. This is wild.
I was curious about your thoughts on this one.
They're using an Everlast. Shout out Everlast Welders. Yeah, I mean, I guess this could be the lay wire version of stick welding. I'm always curious what the final result looks like.
You'll share it. It takes a while.
I'm gonna skip ahead. That is shockingly good. I'm surprised there's no like contamination from the wood burning. It's like a party trick for stick welding. I've never done that. I've never known anyone to do that. I've seen it a few times on like TikTok and Instagram. It's cool, man. I mean, basically, stick welding, your torch is always changing because you clamp an electrode in your stinger, and as you weld, the stick gets used up by burning the metal into the torch. So you're always clipping in a new electrode and welding into the weld, and then it's out, and then you put a new one in, and you're pushing it into the weld. So what's happening here is that the arc is struck. The electrode, the whole electrode isn't conductive because there's a layer of flux around the outside of the electrode. So that's why the whole thing doesn't just short out. The arc works in from the end because once you start the arc, which you can see him, he starts it and then lays it over, then that's the only part that's gonna be burning. And it's impressive that the rate at which the weld travels towards the stinger is good enough that it results in a weld that looks like this. This is wild, man. Maybe we'll try it one day.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Nice work. I want to stick weld more in general. I don't do it that often. Whew. All right, here we've got some pipe welding, and there's an 1.25 inch gap. I talked to Steve about his time in the Navy as a welder at the shipyard. And basically, you have fitters and you have welders. And the fitter's job is to fit up all the parts that need to be welded by cutting them, grinding them, shaping them, chamfering, and then the welders come in and weld it. But notoriously, the fitters don't do a very good job. And they basically operate under the assumption that the welder can fill it in. So this looks to be like a simulation, but this kind of thing can happen all the time in the real world. 1.25 inch gap's pretty bad. Like that's almost big enough to where you could like slot in another piece of pipe. Wow. It's ugly, but he's doing it. I have a hard time believing, I'd love to show this to Steve, but I have a hard time believing that this would be strong enough. I'm curious what a welding inspector would think of this technique. That's pretty wild. It looked like he tack welded some pieces of filler wire in between the pipes to give him a starting point, and then he just builds it. It's almost like 3D printing at this point, where he's like building on top of the weld. I don't know. It'd be fun to get Steve's input on that.
Sure, yeah.
I'll go see if... Hey, Steve. Steve. Can you come here for a second? Come look at this. So Walker has me reacting to welding videos on TikTok. And I remember all the time that you talked about your time in the shipyards and how welders would be expected to fill giant gaps. Look at this. It's an 1.25 inch gap.
And he's just building it across with a TIG. That's insanity.
Would this ever pass inspection? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
I mean, how thick is the pipe?
It looked like Schedule 80, like pretty big stuff.
Well, by the time he gets done.
Like that's obviously the root pass, and then he would build it and build it and build it, but
fucking nuts.
He well tacked in pieces of filler
just to hold it in place.
And give him somewhere to start, I guess.
And it's all carbon steel.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, I mean, that would never pass muster in a shipyard, but it would work. I mean, he's gonna get a bite out of it. It doesn't pass the Navy specs by any stretch.
No.
Because they have to, their gap is supposed to be only within a certain tolerance. So
like the fitters would have failed their job. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they didn't always come in and say, hey man, we can't get this. You can weld that, right?
What did I say? I told you, yeah. Look, he has.
I'm like, oh man, I guess I can. You can't get any better. Oh, all right, I guess. Well, no.
Constant battle.
And they're gone, because they do their job, and I'm the one that's got to finish.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit falls downhill in the trades.
Well, there's the last guy in the room, right?
Right. You're like the trim carpenter. Yeah. He's like, oh my god, the room's not even square.
Right.
He's got something written on the pipe that says like the fitter or something.
Yeah. What's it say?
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it.
That is insane. I mean, I would do it if nobody was looking.
Hey, you get to go home at the end of the day.
Yeah. Sometimes to get shit done, you gotta wait till the inspector leaves.
There you go. Yeah. This is obviously like a simulation, but it's insane.
That's a test to see if you can do it.
Walker said there's a lot of people doing this on TikTok, but like this is the biggest gap fill that he found. 1.25 inch. Insane. I mean, it's so much gas, so much filler, like it's so inefficient.
Yeah, I would get welds that were like, the gap is supposed to be a 1/16 of an inch.
Yeah.
Right, all the way around. And
sure.
the fitter did their best.
And it's like slammed on one side.
And it's like 3/8 on the back side, and like touching on this side, and somewhere in between all the way around, and you got to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's within reason.
Yeah. Add an inch to that.
Right.
Crazy, man. Let's see what's next. You want to watch the rest of them?
Sure.
Pull up a seat. Had a guy come in for a weld test, and this is what he did. Let's see. I think I've seen this one before. Looks like stainless. You're doing this type of thing right now, actually.
Stainless
everything looked great. Sent him to HR. His only concern was that he couldn't vape inside the shop. Which, let's be honest, man. Let your boy vape in the shop. If he welds like this, I don't care what you do in the shop.
Yeah, the vapors that come off of that are worse than the vapors.
Way worse. Way worse than his like strawberry kiwi, whatever vape oil. Yeah. He turned down the job. Man, let the man vape.
That looked like some pretty good tape.
So there's just a tweet that pops up.
Oh no, that is a comment that is Basically, to summarize every comment section of every video that you just watched.
Oh yeah. So in every welding video or troll or whatever, there's always someone who says, "Seen better welds from my disabled dog," or something like it.
Single one.
Right. Dude, internet welding inspectors.
Yep.
It has never been cheaper or easier to be an internet welding inspector.
And then next, there's just
But consider yourself lucky that you spend 0 time on social media. Because you open your, I mean, we're going to get lit up in the comments of this video, I'm sure.
And then
The welding world is full of cocky assholes.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
They claim they can weld anything until the job gets.
and then there's always,
Until
this isn't set up like my machine, or it's the guy, I got
It's a
bad
fitter
gas.
stall.
Yeah, exactly. Bad fit up. Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen this? For those that haven't seen Steve on the channel, you've been a TIG welder for how long?
Oh, I don't know. I started back in 2009 or something.
2009, so at least 13 years, something like
like
that. You worked with in the shipyard, naval shipyard,
I
as a
worked
welder?
in Pascagoula down there, and then I moved up to Newport News Shipbuilding, worked in Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and worked up in Groton on submarines.
wow,
Steve Heinzel, everyone.
that's crazy.
So watch this video. This
right,
is
what am I-
perplexing.
what am I-
So this is stick welding. Here, I'll start from the beginning. The next one that comes in. So he strikes the arc, lays it down. There's a gap there,
He puts a block under it
and look,
just lets it roll.
he walks away.
I've never seen that before.
Neither have I,
That's amazing. But I guess it could work.
because the
It'll
rest of the rod's not conductive because it's covered in flux, and the arc is just burning away.
Yeah.
The crazy thing.
It's genius.
If you have that joint,
Does it work?
Yeah, look at here. I'll fast forward. Look at the result.
It's like a perfect.
Well, it looks porous, and then he chips
No,
it
that's all
off.
slag.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a great weld.
look at this.
Yeah. He had to have that setting just right because you can't see what's happening.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, it's the
So
internet.
he's done 100 of those, and he knows exactly the setting that
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
Which is how you weld on the internet. You
practice to show your best one.
Yeah. And then be like, oh, first try.
Easy.
Yeah. I'm like, how did it not get contaminated by the wood or anything?
I don't know,
Like,
it's got all that flux in there to shield it.
that's
so,
true.
Yeah.
Pushing its positive pressure.
Well, that's like those guys that can do pipe without looking.
Yeah.
At the union pipe welders, they're the guys that do pipeline stuff.
See it all the
With
time.
a 60-10 route, they can get it started and take the mask up and not even look, and they're just listening to the sound of it.
Because you can physically
'Cause it
lay
goes-
it on there.
It has this
Yeah.
weird, like, hollow roaring sound
Right.
inside the pipe. I had a hard time passing that test.
You did though.
Yeah.
You have to. So you're tested to see if you can do it without looking at it.
No, you don't have to not look.
Got it.
You have to be able to do it, get just the right inside route.
Right. Without encroaching in the inside of the pipe too
You can't have
much.
anything falling in. You can't have any gaps. It has to be.
That's tough.
They
Man.
say it's supposed to look like a wedding band on the inside, like just slightly rounded.
Slight bump. Wow.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. to do.
Stick welding.
That's a stick weld.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard.
That's like what
For
pipeline
pipelines,
guys do
I
all day
haven't
long.
really worked in that field though. I took the test and never got the job.
You wouldn't get along with the guys probably.
Yeah, I always end up TIG welding because if you can TIG weld, then you're more valuable.
You heard it here first, folks. What's this next one? So this looks great already.
Yeah.
For context, that is a Australian member of Parliament.
Really?
Yes.
All right, well.
So someone put a welding stinger in the hands of an Australian member of Parliament, and didn't tell him not to look directly at the arc.
Put that down before you touch.
Whose fault does that become?
Oh, that's for sure the fault of whoever is running this shop.
That's fun though when you're stick welding and you have the old school lens.
That doesn't auto darken? Well, this looks like an automatic mask.
You line it up, flip, and then
That was good.
and then hope it works.
And hope it's still where you remember it being.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy's retinas are lit up.
That's okay. We've all, you get blinded like once a day.
Yeah, at least once a week. I mean, with TIG, sometimes you step on the pedal when you're not expecting it, or
Yeah, and then you just gotta wait for the spots to go away. You can see everything but the middle.
yeah. If you look at it indirectly, you can see it, but you look. Yeah.
That's a hard trick to do. Look right next to it.
Yeah. I hope no optometrists are watching this right now, or ophthalmologists.
Yeah, they're crying.
Engineer, if it's by print, it has to work. Welder, don't fit. Yeah, I mean, this is just the classic simulated reality versus actual reality. Like, what says on the plan, it should fit, and Welder's like, well, I'm looking at it.
The engineers are like 25-year-old kids out of college that've never been on a ship before. So they come down and like, how do we fix this problem? You know, like, and then the old welder goes, well, you do this and this and that, you know, like,
yeah,
the pipe
fitters,
here. The fitters know, because they've been there for 30 years.
Yeah, but the kid's like, well, I've got the degree.
And then the engineer goes, oh, okay. And he writes it all down, and he gets paid a lot more.
Here's a meme. All right. Yes, I'd like a wake-up call, please. You're not a very good welder, and you're an alcoholic. It's a hell of a wake-up call. I tell you, man, in that welding school I went and visited, and most, like, managing your vices is a big part of training kids to be good welders. Like, it's sort of understood that you work and live in a world where it's very common to binge drink and have bad emotional relationships with the people around you. So it's like, do your best. Try to be different than the guys around you. There's a sad side, I mean, because you're working all the time. It's brutal work. You're not taking care of your body. And there's a culture in like journeyman welding that is not kind to the human body. Yeah. Take care of yourself. Yeah. But this is
out of the strip clubs.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, that's like you get paid a $12,000 check, and then you go buy a new truck, and you go throw singles in a strip club, and then you're like, when's the next job coming around? I'm broke. I want to see if you've met any guys like this.
This is every inspector whenever they see me pull up to take my welding test.
You're supposed to be here 7 o'clock, not 7:18, son. All right? Do you own a watch? I say we look him out because he's driving a Dodge. You know what I mean? He's welding with a Miller Pipe Pro. You're too cold. I checked your leads. You're too cold. Son, that looks like hammered shit. All right, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I don't even need. Nope. That looks like somebody spread peanut butter with the zipper of a suitcase. That looks like a mule's ass, all right, sewed up with a logging chain. How long you been welding? You told me you've been welding 10 years. You never learned how to weld, huh? You been welding 10 years? Maybe one of these days you figure it out. Preheat the pipe 300 degrees before you touch it.
It's a big difference outside the shipyard too, compared to inside the shipyard.
Yeah.
Inside the shipyard is a very managed, corporate kind of environment, almost.
That's like journeyman
And it's
stuff.
funny because you get guys that work outside the shipyard, and then they're partly in the shipyard, and some are lifers. You know, like they've been there since they were 17. They're like 48 now.
Those hard dudes, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know, like.
That's more like a cultural, like, this is just how people talk.
That's more like, you know, welding on the road, I think.
Yeah, that's a journey.
In the shipyards, it was, you know, the inspector was, again, like some 25-year-old kid who has a checklist and, you know, a you know, like a freaking scope. And he's looking,
pocket protector.
But this undercut is 1/64th too much. You'll have to put another pass here, you know. All right.
Okay.
Nothing you could do. You can't argue with
Right.
me. I mean,
That's the hard part. Yeah, they have a. This was a funny one.
What's happening with this guy?
What? I'm gonna start it over.
Share with you guys one of our trade secrets that we use with aluminum foil. We sort of plug the new guy in with the experienced guy, and they seem to learn a lot faster. And this doesn't just work with welding; it works with a lot of things. So you guys ought to give it a try, see what you think.
That's just so you know where the f***er is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Gotta keep track of the new guy. Put that
shield out, he's walking away.
Yeah. Well, the internet, like I said at the beginning of this video, it's like it's cool to see young people keeping welding in like the newer forms of communication and sharing, but it's like there's so much BS to wade through. It's like, just go do it. Yeah. Quit sitting on your phone and computer like judging other people's welds. Like, just go build something. Go weld and practice and get better. Yeah. Instead of just trashing people you don't know on the internet. Yep. I hope you've enjoyed this video of me trashing people I don't know on the internet.
Well, in the future, maybe what we'll do as a follow-up to this is trying some of these things out. Like the wood.
I would love to try that.
Yeah, let's try it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we got.
I want to try stacking the rods up and going across.
Yeah, doing that crazy gap competition.
All right, that's what you'll win.
Oh, we'll see. I don't know.
I don't know.
I've been out of the shipyard for a while, man. I've been a landscaper these days.
Not exactly practicing. Yeah. Well, maybe that's the next video. Tay and Steve try viral welding video techniques.
Life hacks.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, you can trash every welder. Every welder does something that's wrong.
Right.
But also, you can learn something from every other welder. And I learned from kids. Like, I was older when I started welding. So I was watching these young guys, and I would learn from anybody. And if you're cocky and you think you already know everything, you're not going to make it. Because everybody's got something to teach.
Because you're not going to improve, and you're going to get passed by people that are willing to learn and are coachable. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I learned a lot from you, man.
Hell yeah.
I think it's fairly symbiotic.
Oh, that's why it works here.
It's the culture here at Lift Arc Studios, okay? Now we're going to go back to work and weld things incorrectly. See you next time. Thanks, Steve. Thank you for watching. Don't listen to haters. Like and subscribe. See you next time.